Hi guys, welcome back. Usually when I get on here we're either in the garden or somewhere around the farm, but tonight I'm actually about to invite you into my kitchen because I'm about to experiment with a new recipe. It's for a sweet fermented pickle. I actually just made fermented dill pickles for the first time last year, and I really liked those. I plan to do more at some point this year. But ever since I made those, I actually have been wondering if there's such a thing as a fermented sweet pickle, if you could do that. And I tried doing a little bit of searching online, and I didn't really find anything that I liked. But recently, I just happened to run across this recipe on Instagram from one of the accounts I, excuse me, from one of the accounts I follow on there, the Wild Carrot Homestead, and I believe she said that she got it from another account that she follows, and I believe she did say that it was that for that other account it was a family recipe of theirs. So this is not my recipe. I'm just found it and want to try it. I've never tried it before, so this is just a complete experiment for me, but I'm really excited to see how they turn out. They're called fermented shaker pickles, and so yeah, anyway, I'm gonna go ahead inside and get started. They take a little over 2 weeks to make the whole process, so I'm going to head inside and show you the first step. So I went ahead and wrote down the recipe, and I'm just going to go through it pretty quickly, and I'm going to leave this right here if you want to get a screenshot, but I will also include this in the description. So, sweet fermented shaker pickles. Step 1, fill jars with sliced cucumbers. Then we're going to, the original recipe that she had on there was for a gallon jar. I'm using quart jars for right now. If I decide I really like them, I'll probably come back and do more in gallons and stuff, but for just right now, for experimenting, I'm using quarts. So I did also include measurements for using quart jars. So pour 1 cup per gallon jar or 1/4 cup per quart jar of canning salt over the cucumbers. Then fill the jars the rest of the way with cold water. Shake well and put on the counter for 4 days with a loose lid to allow gases to escape, and shake daily. Drain well and rinse 3 times, and then we're going to add 2 tablespoons per gallon jar or 1/2 tablespoon per quart jar of alum, and fill with fresh water. Let stand on the counter for 24 hours. Drain and rinse 3 times. Then we're going to cover them with apple cider vinegar, add a lid, and allow it to stand for another 10 days, shaking daily. Then we are going to drain it but not rinse it. Then we're going to add 2 tablespoons per gallon or 1/2 tablespoon per quart of pickling spices, and 3 cups per gallon or 3/4 of a cup per quart of sugar. Shake well and let sit for 24 hours. Not going to add any additional liquid. The sugar will macerate, like draw the liquid out of the cucumbers, and it will create its own syrup basically. So after the first 24 hours is up, then you will add another 3 cups or 3/4 cups of sugar. Leave it for another 24 hours, and then one more time. The last time it says to add 2.5 cups. I assume, excuse me, I assume maybe there's just not a lot of room left in the jar at that point. I assume the goal is to basically end up with a full jar. So that may be need to adjust a little bit, but I don't know. We'll see when we get to that point. But in any case, it would be either 2.5 cups per gallon or 5/8 of a cup per quart of sugar. Allow it to stand another 24 hours, and then they are supposed to be done. I don't believe she specified whether they were supposed to be refrigerated at that point or whether they were supposed to be shelf stable. At that point, I will probably put them in the refrigerator, if nothing more, just for tasting. I kind of prefer cold pickles, but we'll see about that. So anyway, that's the basic recipe. I'm going to do 3 jars, and my plan is to do one exactly like the recipe says, one exactly like the recipe, except I'm going to try not using alum and using just bay leaves instead when I add the pickling spice. And then the third one, I'm going to try to do a little bit differently. I'm going to use the same basic method, but I'm going for a different flavor profile. So I have a recipe for a fresh cucumber salad that I make fairly often in the summer that we got from a family friend of ours. And it has onions in it, and it's flavored with celery seed. So I'm going to try that instead of the pickling spice on that one and just see how it does. So I've already taken my 3 jars and 3 clean jars and filled them with my cucumber slices. This one with the onions that I'm going to do with the celery seed, I sliced pretty thin because that's how we do it for that recipe. But the other ones, I cut fairly thick chunks because that's how she did in the video. So don't know if that matters. From my experience with the fermented pickles that I have done in the past, they generally say that the bigger chunks you have, basically the crisper they will stay. Like the dill fermented pickles that I did, I just did whole. And from what I understand, that is usually better with fermented. So I'm not sure how doing the slices is going to work at all, but we're going to find out. So anyway, first step is to add a 1/4 cup of salt to each jar. So I have my canning and pickling salt, and I am going to go ahead and add a 1/4 cup of that to each jar. Now I'm going to fill each of the jars the rest of the way with cool filtered water, and then I'll go ahead and put the lids on and shake them up. Okay, so they've all had the water added and shaken up, and then once I shook them sometime, especially on this one with the thin slices, that let some air bubbles come out, and I did have to add a little bit of extra water. I also, used my spoon to make sure all the cucumbers were pushed down below the water level, and I, my lids, of course I had to tighten while I was shaking them, but I made sure to put them back on just loosely. That's to allow the gases to escape as it's fermenting. So anyway, they are all ready for tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and leave them right here on my counter so I will see them and remember that I need to shake them once or twice a day. And we're going to leave them here for the next 4 days, and then it'll be time for the next step. Alright, so it has been 4 days of them with the salt water, shaking them daily or twice a day, just as I see it and think about it. It's basically calmed down, but there has been some bubbling and foaming. I really can't even see much in it right now. I did also, just out of curiosity, check the pH quick with some litmus paper that I have, and it's not very acidic yet. I would say it's between 5 and a 6, probably closer to 6 still, but it definitely has dropped below the pH of just plain water. So anyway, our next step at this point is to drain and rinse 3 times, and then the next step on the instructions is to add the alum. I'm only going to be doing that with this jar. The other 2 I am going to move straight to the vinegar step, and I'm also going to put bay leaves in those 2, since the purpose of the alum is as an agent to keep it crisp. So I'm going to try skipping the alum in these 2 and seeing if the bay leaves will do a good enough job of themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rinse. Alright, we're all drained and rinsed, and I just wanted to show real quick before I start adding stuff again, just how much the volume of the cucumbers has already shrunk. So I mean, when I sliced these, I filled them all the way up to the neck, and they're all down like 2 inches from that if it's shaken down. This one even more so because they're sliced thinly. So that's part of the job of the salt. The salt does a few things. Well, of course, it's going to add some flavor, and it creates a safe environment for the lacto fermentation process to begin. But this is the other thing it does, is it draws a lot of the pre-existing moisture out of the cucumbers, and you can really see that clearly at this point in the process. So anyway, I am going to go ahead and start adding our other stuff. Okay, so to this first one, we're adding a half a tablespoon of alum. And then I'm filling the rest of the way with my filtered water. Then to the other two that I am not using the alum with, I'm going to add some bay leaves. I'm going to do like 4 in each jar. I'm not adding any of the other flavorings at this point because we're not going to do that until after this step when we add the sugar. So I'm just putting the bay leaves in for now, and then I'm going to do the vinegar. This one is going to get apple cider vinegar like the recipe calls for. And then this other one, since I am trying to copy my cucumber salad recipe, it actually calls for white vinegar, so I'm going to use white vinegar in it. And that jug's not quite going to do it. So we'll break into a new one. Okay, so that's going to start our 10-day clock on these two for the vinegar. The alum stays for 24 hours, so I will drain it out tomorrow night and do the vinegar, and it's going to end up taking 1 day longer than the other two, but no big deal. Anyway, I'm going to replace the lids, shake them up, and leave them on the counter. Once the vinegar's in, you're supposed to continue shaking it daily. So again, I'm just going to leave them out here on the counter where I can see them, and hopefully we'll remember to do that every day. Okay, I will see you guys tomorrow night when it's time to drain this one out. Hey guys, welcome back. It has been 10 days. Actually, it would have been 10 days for these guys last night, 10 days exactly, and it would be 10 days for these guys tonight, but I'm just gonna split the difference and do them all right now. So our next step is to drain the vinegar out, but we're not going to rinse it, we're just draining the vinegar out. And then we will add our spices and the first round of sugar. So it's for the quarts, it's half a tablespoon of the spices. It's a teaspoon, so I'm just gonna heat that up. So for these two, I'm doing mixed pickling spices, and this one I'm doing the celery seed. And then it's gonna be 3/4 of a cup of sugar in each one. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, got that done. So now what's gonna happen is as that sits overnight, it's supposed to go for 24 hours, and then we'll add more sugar. So as it sits, the sugar will draw moisture out of the cucumbers, and it'll kind of create its own syrup. Actually, I don't even know if you can see, but it's already starting to do it on these first two. Here. There's like a maybe 1/4 inch of liquid in the bottom, but that's going to continue, and it'll all the sugar will dissolve, and it'll draw the moisture out, and it'll create its own little syrup. So that'll go down some, and then tomorrow we'll add some more sugar, and we do that 3 times total. Hi guys, back again. As you can see, all of the sugar has combined with the liquid from the cucumbers and created its own syrup. The liquid level on all of them is about to here. There is a little layer in each of them of undissolved sugar in the bottom. I'm not sure if that will go away as we continue, or if it will get, if we'll end up with more down there, but I guess we'll just find out. So next thing we're gonna do is put in our next 3/4 cup of sugar. Put our caps back on, still doing it just a little bit loose so it can breathe some, and we'll be back again tomorrow for our final sugar addition. Okay guys, it's time for our last addition of sugar. As you can see, our liquid level is pretty much up to the top of the pickles on all 3, but this last addition should make sure it's completely over the top. As you can see, we do still have some residual sugar in the bottom. I'm curious to see if that will go away eventually, or if that's just gonna stay. I'm not sure, but anyway, this last time the recipe calls for adding 5/8 of a cup of sugar instead of 3/4, I assume, just because we probably don't need that much more. So I'm not going to measure that out exactly. I'm going to use my 1/2 cup scoop here and heap it up a little bit. And both of my canning funnels are currently in the dishwasher, so I'm going to try to use this one.
Mom, how this?
So the instructions that I saw for these, like I say, I found this on an Instagram account that I follow. So the instructions at the end, it says to make this last addition and wait 24 hours, and then it says you are completely done. What it does not specify is, like, at that point, are you supposed to let them sit for a while before trying them? Are you supposed to leave them out at room temperature, or keep them in a refrigerator or cold storage of some sort? I don't know. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm definitely gonna leave them overnight tonight, and then I don't know if I will try them tomorrow or wait one more day. Okay, one more minute, please. But I will probably try them at that point at room temperature, try one from each and see how they are, and then I may also then put them in the refrigerator and see what that does for us. But I don't know. I'm just gonna kind of play it by ear. I'll try them either tomorrow or the next day, and just kind of go from there. see how they are and if I think they need any more time or if I think additional time would help. So I don't know. This is all an experiment. That's what we're here to find out. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put my lids back on. And we're gonna let these hang out at least until tomorrow. I will be back either tomorrow or the next day, and we'll see how they've turned out. Okay guys, welcome back. It has now been 2 days since my last sugar addition, and it's finally time to sample them and see what they turned out like. So also just a note on all that sugar residue that I had in the bottom. I actually re-looked at the recipe and remember that I was supposed to be shaking the jars well every time I added the sugar, and I hadn't been doing that. I had just been putting it in. So over the last couple days, I've just shook it really well a few times and it took care of it. No more residue in the bottom. So called Shaker Pickles for a reason, and you know, sometimes rereading the instructions is a good idea. So to recap, this was the one that I did exactly as the recipe said with the alum. This one was the one, I did not use alum in either of these two actually, but I included bay leaves in this one to see if it would help with the crispness to the same degree that the alum did. And this one, both of these were pickling spice for the flavoring, and then this one was the onions with the cucumber slices, and then for the flavoring I added celery seed, and this one was also white vinegar, whereas these two were apple cider vinegar. Okay, so yeah, let's break one of them open. I have not tried any of these yet. This is literally the first time, so we're finding out together. This is the one done exactly as the recipe said. So let's take one out and see what they look like. Okay, so definitely firm. Yeah, very good, firm, crunchy, very sweet, as you would expect. There's a lot of sugar. Really good flavor, I like it. I feel like as it sits longer, the pickling spices will add more flavor and it'll come together, probably. You know, I thought I might have to put these in the fridge for them to be really good, but they're perfectly great at room temperature, and I'm curious to see if I, leave them out, if they'll stay crisp over the long term. That'll be kind of an experiment, but yeah, really good flavor, really crisp. Yeah, I like it. Okay, so now we've had that. No. Paper towel. Okay. So now let's try one out of here without the alum and see if it has the same level of crispness or not. Okay. So this one, you can tell that light skin. This was one of the Armenian yard-long cucumbers. Okay, that still has a little bit of a snap to it. I'm getting the feeling that maybe it's not quite as crisp as the other ones, but let's find out. No, it's still really good. It does have just a slightly different flavor than the other one, and I don't know if that's because the alum in this one gives it a different flavor, or if it's the bay in this one that's adding a little bit of flavor. I'm honestly not sure which. But they're both good, I mean. But yeah, I would definitely not be afraid to do more of them without adding the alum, because that still has a very nice crisp bite to it. Yeah, good. Okay, so now let's get into these. So this one, of course, I already mentioned it has the onion in it and the celery seeds, so different flavor profile than these together. But the other, and white vinegar. But the other thing I did differently with this was those first two, the cucumbers were sliced thick, like close to a 1/4 inch. Whereas with this one, I sliced them really thin. So we'll see if that changes anything, if it lost any crispness due to that. So that'll be interesting too. Okay. So no, that feels like it's pretty crisp too. Let's find out. Yeah, no, still really crisp. I'm really impressed with how crisp these are, because I have made fermented dill pickles before. I did whole dills, and they turned out well. But I remember when I was researching about that, reading that when you're doing fermented pickles, basically the larger the pieces, the better for maintaining crispness over the course of that. So I'm actually really impressed. These slices are turning out, I mean, really good. I'm definitely making more of these, all of these. I'll probably do more like this and more like the others. I might even play with some other flavors. I don't know. I've had, I bought like sweet dill pickles before, and I really like those. So if I can come up with some dill, I might even try like a sweet dill recipe. No, these are all really good. You guys should really try making these. I'm very impressed. Yeah, I went to the garden yesterday and I picked a huge bag of cucumbers, like probably 20 pounds. And I was like, what am I gonna do with these? Because I don't have any dill right now, so I can't make any dills yet. And I've made a bunch of sweet pickles already. I think I've already done 3 batches. And I might do some more of those, but I'm kind of sick of making pickles right now. I'm also making some jams and stuff, so I was like, what am I gonna do with all these pickles? This is what I'm gonna do with all those pickles. I am definitely, tomorrow. I would do it tonight if it wasn't pretty late already, but yeah, I'm definitely making some more of these. And these. I probably will not use the alum again. I think it's fine. I just kind of the less ingredients the better, I guess, kind of person. So since it didn't seem to make any difference in crispness that I could tell, yeah, we'll probably just continue to use the bay leaves. I think that turned out great. But yeah, you guys should really try this recipe. It's really good. I'm really impressed with how they turned out. I'm very happy with it. Again, I'm going to write out the recipe and instructions in the description. I also might link, or at least put the username to the account where I originally found this recipe, so if you want to go there, because I know she said she found it from somebody else. I don't remember the account or who she said she found it from right off the top of my head, but you know, if you want to go see what she wrote about it, and you know, kind of the more the backstory from it, but she said they were called sweet fermented shaker pickles. But yeah, these are really good. Definitely, you guys should make some. I'm really happy I tried this, because like I said, I really did when I first made the fermented dills. I was like, I wonder if there's a recipe for sweet pickles, and I tried looking for one and I didn't really find anything, and I just happened to stumble across this, and I'm so happy I did, and I'm so happy I tried it. are really good. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you made it to this point, because I want you to know that these are good and you should make them. But thank you so much for hanging out with me through this, and I really hope you make them. Please, if you do and you like them, let me know in the comments. And yeah, please feel free to share. I want the world to know about these. They're really good. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Good night.